Hello, welcome to CWI Part B Practical Book of Specification Lecture. This is lecture 12. Today I'm going to give a lecture about chapter 4. Title of the chapter 4 is Workmanship Requirements and Visual Inspection Acceptance Criteria for Pressure Piping. Chapter number 2 is Workmanship Requirements and Visual Inspection Acceptance Criteria for Structural Steel, and chapter number 3 is Workmanship Requirements and Visual Inspection Acceptance Criteria for Pipeline. And finally, chapter 4 is the Workmanship Requirements and Visual Inspection Acceptance Criteria for Pressure Piping. I repeated this title of the chapter 2, 3, and 4 because these titles are very important to solve when you solve the actual CWI Part B questions. This is a very good evidence where to find the acceptance criteria in the actual questions through this BOS. 4.1 is workmanship requirements, and 4.1.1 I'm gonna read out the specification and give an explanation and give you the brief pictures of how you measure the internal misalignment. Before I show you that, I'm gonna check the this one. Okay, this is good. The internal misalignment of the ends to be joined should not be greater than 2 mm. When the internal misalignment exceeds the allowable, it is preferred that component with the wall extending internally be internally trimmed. Internal misalignment of the ends to be joined should not be greater than 2 mm. So this is the acceptance criteria, and when the internal misalignment exceeds the allowable, it is preferred the component with the wall extending internally be internally trimmed. And what it means is, I'm gonna show you. I don't have the picture right now, but what it means is here. When you have different thickness in the butt joint, something like this, then you need to trim this amount of base metal, which has a higher thickness, to here. Trimming should not result in piping component thickness not less than the minimum or lower thickness. So this trimming not resulting not less than minimum or lower thickness. So if the minimum or lower thickness is right here 10 mm, by this trimming, thickness of here should not be less than 10 mm. And when you trim here, changing contour, the contour not exceed 30 degrees. So here, not exceeding 30 degree. If you go to ASME B31.3 or ASME Section 8 for the pressure piping and pressure vessel code, you can see the trimming, how you trim the different thickness. And in the CWI Part B actual questions, internal misalignment, you can see the problems like questions like this. The pipe specimen is given, and here you have a open joint, and you measure the misalignment here. How you measure is using this high-low gauge and place the high-low gauge like this and insert the high-low gauge like this and measure, adjust this side. If here there is a misalignment, internal misalignment, you can adjust this part like this, and you fix this tool, spin it, and then fix the alignment here. You don't read this dimension here, but you just measure this amount of distance by steel ruler. Again, you don't read this 1/32 or 1/16. This is the root gap measurement reading. This is not the internal base alignment reading. .1.2 Edge preparation details and root opening of the joint should be as specified in the WPS. So edge preparation and details and root opening of the joint should be as specified in the WPS. What it means is, I'm going to show you the actual question of the CWI Part B. Root opening and misalignment, they are in the actual questions, so you need to think of this kind of thing, this kind of questions. Again, same specimen, pipe specimen is given in the actual CWI Part B exam, and you measure this open joint by using again this high-low gauge. And this time you don't use this side. Here you used this side for the internal misalignment, but for the root gap you use this. Place the high-low gauge like here, like this, and insert high-low gauge here, root gap here, and then insert, pick the high-low gauge here inside of the pipe specimen, and you can see how many distance the high-low gauge this side goes into the pipe specimen. And this time you read this reading, this dimension, 3/32. So just read this 3/32, and here two readings more. I'm not familiar with the inch scale, so just millimeter scale. This 3, if this is assuming this is 3, then root gap is 3. This is how you measure root gap and how you use the high-low gauge for the root gap. 4.1.3 Surface for welding should be clean and free from paint, oil, rust, scale, or other material that is detrimental to welding. The welding joint surface of the weld should be free of paint, oil, rust, scale, other material that is detrimental to welding. But you're not able to check this paint, oil, rust, scale with the plastic replica piping specimen. So this kind of sentence or provision not in the actual questions, so you don't have to worry about this. 4.1.3. 4.1.4 The stopping and starting ends of tack welds should be prepared by grinding or other mechanical means so that they can be satisfactorily incorporated into the final weld. Tack welds that have cracked are unacceptable and should be removed and rewelded. Okay. The stopping and starting ends of tack welds. Tack weld is hold on a second please. I'm gonna bring up the pictures of the tag words and other things and give you a better explanation. Hold on a second please. Very weird. I'm not able to find this photos of the tag word and other things I wanted to show you, but I'm gonna just explain the tag words. Stopping and starting ends of tag words should be prepared by grinding or other mechanical means so that they can be satisfactorily incorporated into the final word. Tag words that have correct are unacceptable and should be removed and reworded. Something like this is the tag word, and endpoint, stop and start points of the tag word shall be grinded or treated as a other mechanical method or means. And if there is a crack in the tag word, that's reject. And these days, recent CWI Part B questions, you can have the actual questions of like you have the tag word here, but nothing, no discontinuity on the tag word, but here on the bevel surface you have the arc strike. Some arc strike is reject, so this is how you solve the problem for the tag word. This 4.1.4 plus this arc strike 4.1.6. Combination of these two provisions, and you will see the questions like this. 4.1.5. After welding commences, the minimum preheat temperature should be maintained until the joint is completed. However, welding may be interrupted and the joint allowed to cool slowly provided a minimum 10 mm thickness of weld is deposited or 25% of groove is filled, whichever is less. Welding commences. After welding started, minimum preheat temperature shall be maintained till the completion of the weld. However, welding may be interrupted. Joint is allowed to cool slowly provided minimum 10 mm thickness of weld is deposited. This is important, 10 mm thickness, or 25% of the groove is filled. So this is 4.1.5 is also important because the 4.1.5 is in the actual CWI Part B questions. So problem question is like this. Like this here, upstream side, joint like this, piping specimen is given, and you measure this empty surface. Thickness of the emptiness of the disjoint, and let's say the thickness of the pipe is 30 millimeter, and the measurement of this empty space in the joint is 10 millimeter, which means this word deposit inside of here is 30 millimeter minus the thickness of the pipe minus 10 millimeter, which is the empty space in the wording joint, is 20 millimeter. Then it means the word deposit of this empty surface of the joint is 20 millimeter. Where the deposit is 20 millimeters, so where the thickness of this joint is 20 millimeter. And go back to the part B, the BOS and the 4.1.5, and check this one. This kind of condition is given in the actual question. Interrupted and joint allowed to cool slowly. A minimum 10 mm thickness of the word is deposit when interrupted. So, or 25% of the group is filled, whichever is less. And go back to the specimen. This is 20 millimeter, where the deposit is 20 millimeter, but it is interrupted after wording commences. So this first sentence is satisfied, but you need to check this 25% of the groove filled. So the thickness of the pipe is 30 millimeter, and the deposit word thickness is 20 millimeter. So 25% of 30 millimeter is 7.5 millimeter. So at least the 7.5 millimeter of this joint should be filled before wording interrupted after wording commences. But 20 millimeter of wording is deposit, so you can this word can be interrupted while wording. This is the example of the actual question of part B, the wording interruption, 4.1.5. 4.1.6, arc strikes outside the area of the intended word are unacceptable. Arc strike is not acceptable, and arc strike is like, here. This is arc strike. 4.1.7 adds worded surfaces, including tie-ins, should be smooth, uniform, and free from overlap. The important thing is this overlap, and overlap looks like this. (4.1.8) the base metal surface should be free of spatter. Spatter is not acceptable, and spatter looks like something like this. This round thingies. And in the part B, replica spatter looks like here. This round things are spatter on the base mirror. And when you see this one for the pressure piping, this is a project. 4.1.9 repair wording. Any discontinuities in excess of the maximum permitted in 4.2 should be removed and may be repaired by wording after the area has been magnetic particle or dye penetrant inspected to assure complete removal of discontinuities. So if the actual question can be on the exam, then out of 1.9, then question is like this: what kind of inspection should be conducted on the repair surface? After grinding, then the answer is magnetic particle or dye penetrant inspection should be removed and may be repaired by welding after the area has been magnetic particle or dye penetrant inspection. 4.1.9.1 Defect Removal. All defects in weld or base metals requiring repair should be removed by flame or arc gouging, grinding, chipping, or machining. Preheating may be required for flame or arc gouging on certain alloy materials of the air hardening type in order to prevent surface checking or cracking adjacent to the flame or arc gouged surface. When a defect is removed but welding repair is unnecessary, the surface should be contoured to eliminate any sharp notches or corners. The contoured surface should be re-inspected by the same means originally used for locating the defect. This 4.1.9.1 is very important for the actual welding work in the real life industry, but not for the CWI Part B questions. This is not on the exam. But this 4.1.9.1 is very important thing to keep to have the successful weldment, sound weldment. 4.1.9.2 Repair welds. Repair welds shall be made in accordance with the RPS using qualified welders, recognizing that the cavity to be repair welded may differ in contour and dimension from a normal joint preparation and may present in different restraint conditions. All repair welds shall meet the visual acceptance criteria of 4.2. Okay. This is just a repair word, not in the actual questions. 4.1.9.3 Inspection. All weld repairs of depths exceeding 25 mm or 20% of the section thickness, whichever is lesser, measured from the pipe surface, should be inspected by radiography and by magnetic particle or dye penetrant inspection of the finished weld surface. Okay, I stop here, and this sentence 4.1.9.3 is very important, and the actual CWI Part B question is like this. Here, this kind of piping specimen, brush piping specimen is given, and here you repair the area, something like this. This is not a repair area, but just assuming this is a repaired area, and after repair, or this kind of completed words, after repair of the condition is depths exceeding 25 mm or 20% of the section thickness. So repaired area depth is over 25 mm, or 20% of the section thickness. 20% or 25 mm. Section thickness means the pipe thickness. Pipe thickness, let's say this thickness of the pipe is 100 mm, and if the depth of the repair area is over 25 mm or 25%, which is again 25 mm, so So you choose the lesser of these two. If depth of the repaired area is over 25 millimeter, you need to do what kind of inspection? Here it says by radiography and by magnetic particle or dye penetrating inspection of the finished word surface. So here you do RT and MT or PT. This is the answer of the actual question. Or whereas repairs of depths less than 20% of the section thickness or 20 millimeter, whichever is lesser, should be examined by magnetic particle or dye penetrant inspection of the first layer of a 6 millimeter thickness of deposited word matter and of the finished word surface. Magnetic particle or dye penetrant testing of the finished word surface should be done after post-word heat treatment. So if the thickness of the repair word and the depth is less than 25% of the thickness or 25 millimeter, and choose the smaller one, and at the time you do magnetic particle inspection or dye penetrant inspection. Again, 4.1.9.3 is important because these are in the actual question. 4.2 visual inspection acceptance criteria. I'm gonna stop here today, and next lecture I will start from 4.2. And 4.2 is not long, very short, but I'm running out of time now, so I'm gonna stop here. Okay, thank you for listening to my lecture. I'll see you next time.